In this video, I want to talk about the dialog element. The dialog element is one of those really powerful tags that gives you a lot for free, and all you have to do is just use it. It's come a long way in the last few years, so there are even some accessibility bits built in that we can lean into once we start doing proper modals. But the dialog element can be used for so many other things as well, not just what we consider to be a modal on a page, but also things like just-in-time or toast notifications, any sort of active blocking system. So if you've ever wanted to style things like the confirm dialog inside of JavaScript, well, now you can. You just go away from the confirm dialog and you use this instead, okay? So lots of power. It does have a single open attribute and a bunch of methods attached to it that allow us to control that, okay? So way over here in CodePen, we're going to set this up. I'm going to start with an H1 just so that we can have something in here. And I'm going to say dialog demo just to get us started. Below that, I'm going to add some paragraphs right down here. I'm going to add 20 of them. And these paragraphs, they don't really do anything for us except to allow us to see how the dialogues overlap things, okay? So 20 paragraphs just so that we have plenty to work with, something to scroll, all looking really good. From here, we can start to add our first dialogue. And it is just as you saw on the other page. So it is the dialog tag. I'm going to give this a class of non-modal, okay? Because we're going to start with the non-modal version. So that's going to open that up. It's going to jump around here as the text settles. But now we can start to add some stuff. Inside of here, we can add our H2 and say this is a non-modal, okay? So we just have that. We're also going to add a button inside of here. That button is going to be our close button. So for this, we probably should add some ARIA labels or some better descriptive text. But for now, we're just going to use that very traditional X, that time sign in order to see it. Now we aren't seeing it, and that's because we haven't opened it, okay? We can open it manually by typing open as an attribute on dialog, and here it is. You'll see that it kind of overlaps. It doesn't stop the scroll. We have the button in there. We can also select the text right in behind it. So it's not blocking. It's not a modal in the traditional sense, but it is there. Right underneath this, I'm going to add a paragraph just so that we have it. It's going to have 20 words. And that lets us see how it expands to fill the space. Now, obviously, we don't want it to expand to fill the space, so we should probably style this up, okay? Down here, dot non-modal, just like this. And we're going to add some styles to this. So the first is going to be background color. It's going to have a little bit of transparency, so let's go RGBA. And that's going to be 255, 255, whoops, 255 and 0.7, which is going to give us some transparency. You can see that this text is overlapping that text. It's very hard to see, so we're going to use something called backdrop filter, okay? Backdrop filter allows us to change the background a little bit. And in this case, we're going to blur whatever is behind that background. A little bit of confusion there, but when you see it, you can see that it's kind of like frosted glass, right? Trying to read text through frosted glass. The text is all still there, but it is hidden behind our modal, okay? Going further, we're going to give this a max width. So let's just do that. It's going to be 80 VW. So based on the width, that way we have that. We're also going to get some border radius in there of 1 rem. Whoops, jumping around, hitting the wrong keys. And from here, we start to position it, okay? A lot of toast messages, they live up in the corner or at the bottom of the page, down in the corner. I've seen either. For this, I'm going to put it down in the bottom just to be a little bit different. But your design might decide otherwise, okay? So for this, I'm going to go with position fixed. I'm going to set the bottom to 1 rem and the right to 1 rem. And what this should do is it should drive it down. Now you're going to notice that it is not going to the right. It's kind of going to the left, actually. It's bigger on this side than it is on the left side. Scroll still works, but it's not positioning, and that's because for some strange reason that I don't really understand, there is a left on this. So as soon as we set left to auto, now it positions correctly. So a little bit of a gotcha there, but we can get it done. At this point, we need a way to close it, okay? So we drop down into JavaScript, and again, we have this open attribute. We don't usually want to change the open attribute directly. Instead, we want to use the methods, and the methods on Dialog will set this for us, okay? So down here, we need to grab that. We're going to grab our non-modal, just like this. It's going to be document.querySelector, just like this, .non-modal. So we can grab that. In fact, we're going to grab the button too. So let's go and do that. This is going to be the close button. And because it's the only button in this modal, I'm just going to target it directly. Normally, you'd probably want some sort of a class, but in a little while, we're going to change this. So I don't want to get too hung up on that bit, okay? And then from here, we take that button and add an event listener, okay? So add event listener, just like this. Click, and our callback. Now our callback grabs that non-modal and closes it. Closes another method on there. I do not need the 0. Closes another method on the dialog that allows us to get rid of it. And we should be able to do exactly that. It's gone. It's not really gone. It's still in the DOM somewhere, but we no longer have access to that, and it is properly hidden. I have no way of opening it. Let's go make a way to open it. Right here, a div, a button. We're going to give this button non-modal, btn, just so that we have it, and open non-modal, just so we have it, okay? All of this good stuff. We're going to go and create another one. So set this up as open. It is non-modal-btn, and now we can grab this event listener, copy and paste it down, change it to open. It's still a click, and non-modal show, okay? So at this point, we have a way to close it, and now we have a way to open it, which is pretty good. In fact, if we wanted to, we can go and get rid of this open now because it's rare that a modal would be open by default. So let's go and do that. And now we can open and close it. In fact, we could go further and set timeout. Inside of here is another callback, just like this. And it is non-modal show, right? So we grab that, paste it in. Down here, we put maybe 5 seconds. After it refreshes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it opens. And then we can close it and open it, okay? So lots of ways to trigger this and get it to fire up. There are a couple things in here though, okay? A couple things that would be nice to take care of. For one, I hinted at this close button. We don't actually need the close button here. We can do something else. So I'm going to go and disable this. And right up here, I'm going to copy this to this button to my clipboard. So cut it. Let's add a form. And instead of action, I want to use method. Now the method is dialog. And what that does is any button in here, any submit button, remember that buttons by default, if you don't add a type, they are of type submit, okay? So any button inside of a form that doesn't have a type is going to submit the form. And when we submit this form, it's going to trigger the dialog to close. So I've disabled that in the JavaScript, and I've added this form. Now when I open it, it's going to wrap. I would need a little bit of CSS in here to get it back in line, but there it is. It closes. And the browser gives us this for free. A lot of what we're doing today, the browser just gives us. All we have to do is use it, okay? So we've cleaned this up. We have a very cool little toast message here. And now we can move on, okay? So we've done that. Let's focus on the modal version, okay? So I'm going to grab this dialog. I'm going to copy it, paste it right down here, and I'm going to change it to just modal. Because it's modal, I am also going to change this. Nothing else in here changes. We've changed the class. We've changed a little bit of the copy. Nothing else in this dialog changes, okay? Now, we need a way to open it. So let's go and get that way up here. A button. Again, removing the non part of this. So right there, right there. And now we have a way to open it, but we haven't attached any logic to this, okay? If we go and open this right now, you'll see that it looks exactly the same as the other one with less style, obviously. So I can turn this on and they kind of function the same way. So if you use open, it does not create a modal version of your dialog. In order to do that, you need to use JavaScript. So let's go and disable this for a second. It should clean all of this stuff out. It absolutely does. And I'm going to copy this to my clipboard. So I've copied this. I'm going to add a comment in here so that we have a little bit of separation between the two. And I'm going to paste it in. It's going to break because I'm trying to redeclare constants. But if we go and get rid of this non, lowercase it, get rid of this part here, go and get rid of this non-m and lowercase it, and right here, do a little bit more cleanup, and one more time for the win, right there and right there, okay? Now, again, this shouldn't do anything that we haven't seen already. This is not a modal, and in fact, to make it a modal, we instead of show, we need to go modal.show modal. And now when we click this, you'll see that it drops down to the middle and kind of grays out the background. And in fact, I cannot click anything in here anymore. In fact, it stays exactly where it is. I haven't added any CSS for this yet, and it's already giving me stuff for free, okay? So I can close it. I can also open it. You'll notice that it focuses by default, so it gives me that accessibility for free. It also gives me the escape key for free. I did not have that over here. I can hit it, but nothing happens. I can actually open this. On top of that, that grays out, and this one focuses. I hit the escape key, it goes away. I have to do this one very, very manually, okay? So a lot of stuff happening for free. Get rid of some of my comments because they are in the way, but we're already starting to see the benefit of just using the tools that the browser gives us. Now at this point, we should probably add some styles. So let's go do that really fast. .modal. And we don't need a lot here. So the border is going to be nothing. We're going to turn that off. In fact, I can display this so that we can see it. We're going to add that border radius of 1 rem, just like this, and a max width, okay? So max width of 80 VW, sorry, just so that we have it spaced out a little bit. From here, I want to change the backdrop. And for that, we have a special pseudo class. It's attached to modal. two colons, and backdrop, just like this, okay? And that allows us to style this scrim, this backdrop. So here, we're going to do a lot of the same things. We're just going to grab all of this, bring it right down, paste it in. It's going to do something funny. It kind of looks cool already, but I would actually prefer it be black. So let's go 0, 0, 0. And now it's looking pretty sharp, right? We haven't done a lot, and already we have a very functional modal with very little code. We can open it, we can escape. It focuses that button, so I can hit that too. Everything is just working really nice. There are a couple bits in here that I'd like to take care of. One of them being that it's still scrolling. Usually when we have a modal nowadays, we also like to lock the body so that it's not scrolling. Some people might want that. It depends on your designer, right? So I'm going to lock the background. The other thing I want to be able to do is to click here to dismiss it. A lot of modals nowadays, you click outside of the modal and it goes away. In this case, we don't get that for free. We have to add a little bit of code, but it is very, very easy. So let's start with that body lock. Way down here, underneath all this, I'm going to add a couple functions. One is going to become handle close, like this. So here's handle close. If I could spell right, handle close. And handle close is nothing we haven't seen before, so modal.close. And then right below it, another one that is handle open. And this is going to be modal.show modal, just like this. Already we can clean this up a little bit. We can get rid of this callback right here and just supply handle open. Nothing should really change. I should be able to get into this, hit the escape key, but I cannot do anything with the background because, I have to add something for the body lock, sorry. So the body lock happens here on the body. So document.body.classList. Because this is closed, this is remove. I'm going to remove it. And I'm going to add, or I'm going to remove a class of modal open. I'm going to copy that down because it's the exact same thing here, only we are adding it. Okay. At this point, I need to add some CSS right above the modal. .modal open and overflow hidden. Now at this point, I should be able to open it. It locks that scroll. If I hit close, it still locks that scroll. And the reason for that is I haven't actually used my close handler, right? I've closed it, but I haven't triggered the actual close handler. I haven't used that anywhere. So let's be sure that we get that. For that, I need another event, and that's going to be on modal. Add event listener, just like this. And what is the event? Well, every time the modal closes, every time a dialog closes, it fires an event called close. So we can totally do that. We can add our handle close. And technically, we're closing it twice. We're closing it because it gets closed and it fires the close event. And then we're closing it again. It doesn't really hurt anything. And I do have a reason for leaving this in here. We'll talk about that in a second. But for the moment, I can open it and I can scroll. So everything is kind of doing stuff. I have an error. What is the error? Modal. There we go. Good. So open, I'm trying to scroll, nothing is happening. I hit that and I can scroll again. The other thing that I want to do is that click outside. And for that, I need another function. This one is going to be called handle outside click. So handle outside click. just like this. In fact, we are going to get the event for this one. We do need that. And the first thing that I want to do is check for an if. Ultimately, we're going to handle close, okay? Which is why we need modal.close in here, okay? But I need to check and make sure that we're actually clicking on the right thing. And the way that we do that is with this if statement. So the first thing I want to do is, if there's no modal, then return. Okay, if there's no modal, return, because like, why would I waste my time? The second thing I want to do is see if the click happened inside of the modal. So modal.contains event.target. And what this does is it says, if you clicked inside of the modal, right? If the target is inside of the modal, then just return because you are inside of the modal. Now this isn't quite going to work. We need to add that event listener document. We add it right to the document. Add event listener, copy and paste for the win. And it's going to be on pointer down. Now the reason that I use pointer down is because it takes care of both touch and mouse. Okay, so we're doing two birds with one stone there. We get the click and we get the mouse down and we get the touch start. Okay, and of course our event right here, paste it in, and it should hopefully just work, except that it won't. Okay, I won't be able to click on anything. If I escape, everything still works, but I'm not doing that, and that's because this background is actually attached to this modal. So we need to do one extra little bit of magic, and that magic is over here on backdrop. We set pointer events to none. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to click through. And when we click through, it hits the body, right? It hits the document and triggers the event, right? So it's no longer on the modal because there are no pointer events on the backdrop. And so it all just works. We have all of this working brilliantly. Now, a couple things that I want to mention before closing this out, okay? We have a really cool functional bit in here. But what if, like I mentioned at the beginning, what if I wanted to use this as a replacement for something like the confirm, right? Inside of JavaScript, we might use a confirm dialog and try to get stuff away from it. But the tricky part with that is that I have no way of styling that, right? That is completely controlled by the browser. And so using this, I could in fact have some buttons in here for different functionality. And based on those buttons, I could trigger other things to happen. Okay. So way up here in the HTML, let's go and add a couple extra bits. We could also do this in our non-modal, but for us, we're just going to do it here. Again, we need a form. That form is not action, it's method. We can just keep using this of dialog. And inside of here, we want two buttons. So button 1 is going to be cancel. Okay. Button 2 is going to be continue. Those seem pretty clear cut. Okay. We can either cancel or we can continue. We need to pass in some values now. Okay. And the value is what gets returned to JavaScript. When we close this, on that close event, we will be able to get whatever this value is. So right here, I'm going to set this value to cancel. Double quotes. I don't think it matters, but today I'm doing double quotes there. And here, value is going to be default, whatever the default is. Again, you can name this whatever you want. You're going to be able to capture it and use it. Okay. Now that we have those, we can see that any one of these closes it. And you aren't really seeing anything change So let's go and use it. Way down here, inside of the close, we can add a return value. Okay, we get that not as part of the event, so it doesn't come through as an argument. It just gets attached directly to the modal. Okay, so modal dot return value, and from here I should actually be putting this inside of console log. That's my bad. Return value. Okay, now when we're doing this, I can bring up my console log. Let's whoops, that's the wrong one back here. Should be attached properly. I did not do that right. My bad. Okay. But now, when we open this and I hit cancel, I get cancel. Okay. When we open this and hit continue, I get default. When I hit escape, I also get default. And when I hit this button, I also get default. So there's a little bit of a trick in here where it holds on to whatever the last thing was. It doesn't reset back to 0 every time you open it. We can fix that really fast just by grabbing modal return value right here on the open and defaulting it to an empty string. Or better yet, just default it to cancel, because ultimately anything other than that default is going to be cancel. Okay? So when we open it, now if I hit this, I get cancel. When I open this, if I hit escape, I get cancel, right? And I would expect both of those to actually be cancel. Now if I hit continue, I get default. And so very quickly, we've put together a couple different dialogues that have allowed us to either operate on this in a very succinct way. We can style it, we can change it, and we can capture any values that come out of here. That is the dialogue. So to bring it all home, dialogue, it gives us a lot of power for free. We can use it for non-modals, like I did down here, right? This bit of a toast message thing. Or we can use it for an actual modal. And we can style this however we want. We could add animation to any of these or any of that good stuff. And it all just works. Again, we get it for free. We get some functionality in here around forms that help us to close the dialogue. We can also capture those values. And really, we've used, across both, we've used 40 lines of code, and a lot of that has been comments, right? So very quickly, we could put this into its own little package and use it everywhere, which is just really, really slick. So again, dialogue, I think we should be using this all the time. I'm planning on using it in all of my future projects as much as possible, because this is stuff that the browser gives us for free. And all we have to do is reach out and take it. Have you used Dialog? Please definitely comment or reach out. Let me know how, because I'm always interested in stuff like that. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one.